Sometimes things happen and I don't get excited because why waste energy hoping for something that's not going to happen? Then other times things happen and I get giddy with hype. This, dear viewer, that is one of those times. You see, there's a company called Ubisoft. You know who they are. Remember Assassin's Creed when it used to be good? I remember. It's not like that anymore, unfortunately. I mean, Shadows was terrible. And remember how Ubisoft tried to gaslight you into believing that you need to become comfortable with never owning the games that you buy? Well, an entire country just pulled the Uno reverse card on Ubisoft, and it's not looking good, fellas. For Ubisoft, I mean. For you, actually, I mean, this is amazing. So let's dive in, shall we? This comes from comicbook.com. A French lawsuit might have deep ramifications for gaming's future. So what's happening? Well, pretty much, as the kids would say, Ubisoft is cooked, my friends, but in the best way possible. And if they lose here, it's going to make shockwaves in terms of consumer trust in laws, but again, in the best way it can possibly be. So a little context. Do you remember something called Stop Killing Games? If you don't, it was started by a YouTuber named Ross Scott. Basically, Stop Killing Games was an initiative, or is I guess, to have laws put in place so that companies wouldn't be able to sell you something and then take it offline whenever they felt like doing it, and then leaving you with neither the game that you paid for or the money that you spent on it. This is where the whole "you must become comfortable with not owning your games" thing came from, when that one Ubisoft higher up said that, and then it went viral. Because Ubisoft viewed the consumption of their game's content more so, I guess, like a movie ticket. You know, you pay for the experience, you enjoy the media once you have it, and then when it's over, you are left without the media forever, but you got to, in a sense, enjoy it, I guess. For video games, that's not really how it goes. Plus, games are usually, more expensive than a movie ticket, as we all know too. So this all began because Ubisoft delisted The Crew, which is a racing open world game that came out like a decade ago. Ubisoft randomly just took the game offline despite people having paid money for not only the game, but the microtransactions within as well, which is, yes, very scummy. This then led to a lawsuit where Ubisoft was then sued for removing a game that people paid for. But now, this is where it gets nuclear bad for the French game maker, because originally that lawsuit was North American based, but now it's in their home turf. Like, that's right, fellas, the French people are now eating each other. Oui, as the French would say, I guess. I don't know. I don't speak French. But anyways, as seen here, a French consumer group named UFCQ Chosier, I probably said that wrong, has launched a class action lawsuit against Ubisoft in their home country of France, and this lawsuit now has the backing officially of Stop Killing Games as well. So, if you're Ubisoft, this is very, very bad news for you, because now they're getting railed from like all directions. And there's quite literally nothing that they can do to stop what happens next. The thing about this lawsuit is that it will challenge not only Ubisoft, but the entire games industry's ability to delist and remove games at a whim. Meaning that the concept of selling you a license for a game when you pay for it could actually become a thing of the past. Which, if you're a company, that's really bad news, because it means you're going to have stuff in place to ensure that your games, even if they fail, can still exist no matter what. But if you're someone who plays games, I mean, this is an early Christmas present for you pretty much. I think the way comicbook.com put it here is good, which says online gaming might look very different if Ubisoft loses this lawsuit. And yeah, I agree. Because if Ubisoft can't win this, it doesn't just affect them. This is how laws get put in place that ends up causing everybody to have to sit at the table and then come to a conclusion. Because again, companies have been trying for years now to take away as much control as possible from consumers like yourself, while, maximizing profits like they always do. As they said here, it was bad before, but now with the French consumer groups in the fray alongside members of the European Union, this is all going to make Ubisoft's battle way, way harder to challenge and overcome, which is music to my ears. Because as we all know, Ubisoft isn't, doing so hot right now. I mean, they're practically owned by Tencent, who are we kidding? And beyond that, their games, well, they haven't been doing so hot either. Apparently, there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline that's being worked on, but nothing has come out for a while now, as we all know. I mean, their last major release, Assassin's Creed Shadows, wasn't exactly enough to turn things around for Ubisoft. Maybe the whole Black Samurai thing didn't go as well as they thought, but I mean, if it was, then then like Tencent wouldn't really own them, right? But I mean, we all know that's not the case. I think how comicbook.com puts it here is good, which says, Ubisoft, meanwhile, seems to be representing the larger titans of the industry in their battle, as their loss in this court case could result in other companies being held to the same standard. While game companies claim the cost of maintaining games in perpetuity would be cost prohibitive, others have argued that offline modes, or at least clearer warnings about the potential closures, are crucial for consumers to make informed decisions when purchasing a video game. Exactly this. It's a big reason why you're seeing many live service games not doing as hot, because the act of buying into or supporting such a game is oftentimes seen as worrying or not a good idea. Because what do you mean? I could spend hundreds of dollars on the skins and spend all this time, ranking up only for you guys to pull all support and then shut the game down. And now I'm screwed out of everything I just invested in. It's a big reason why the fight around, for example, Marathon has been what it is. Because people don't really want to invest into something like a Marathon if it doesn't have the legs to stay. And currently, based on Marathon's player count, yeah, it's not looking too hot there either. But I mean, Polygon, for example, is seen here, has also done their top 10 games of 2026 so far, and as you can also see there, they think that Marathon is currently the best game of the year. The games industry has done a lot of protection for stuff like Marathon or High Guard, even though people are not really showing up in droves to play it. However, on the flip side, you have the single-player games that are dominating the bejesus out of 2026 playtime like Crimson Desert has. As Game Rant put it here recently, Crimson Desert is still an absolute monster on Steam. Yeah, the game has barely lost any players since over 2 weeks from launch. Instead, that game is gaining even more players as time goes on, which is weird. That doesn't usually happen. However, the difference between a Crimson Desert and an Ubisoft game is that Crimson Desert will exist forever, whereas Ubisoft, you genuinely don't know these days. As Game Rant puts it here, Crimson Desert is so successful that it's having more staying power than most other games on Steam, which, with how fierce competition is when it comes to players' time and money, that is definitely impressive. Crimson Desert to me feels like what Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed series should have become, but it didn't. I mean, technically in ways. You could even argue and say that Crimson Desert isn't even necessarily an RPG game either. Like, you don't level up in a sense. Sure, yes, you gain skill points, but there's no tangible way of saying I am level 50 or 70 or whatever else in the game. It instead has a gear system that feels more akin to older school Assassin's Creed games, where exploration and skill matters more than numbers in a menu. Again, this is pretty much what Assassin's Creed should have been, but clearly isn't. So the absolute state of Western gaming is already mostly cooked as it is. I mean, remember that Crimson Desert added so many sought-after features for fans in the span of like a week and some change, while most Western game companies, they take ages to add basic features. Look, I can even prove it, right? Look at this on screen. This is from Assassin's Creed Shadows Year 1 post-launch update. So that game came out in March 2025. The first major update wasn't until early May. That's months after release. Ubisoft wouldn't even add the ability to hide your headgear in Shadows until June, as you can see there at the bottom of the June content drop. It took Crimson Desert barely 2 weeks to add headgear options amongst all of the other updates that they did already. And it took Ubisoft 4 months for them to give you the option just to hide your headgear. Like, this is what Western gaming is becoming. Like, when they're not humiliating you by taking down games that you paid for and running away with your money, people like Ubisoft are also playing you like fools and making you wait entire months for basic features that, let's be real, should have maybe been there at release, or at least like within a week or so at best, right? Like, I can't believe they unironically say that they will add a new vertical ledge jump to Assassin's Creed Shadows as content in their late May update. Like, what do you mean a jump function is a content drop thing in a game called Assassin's Creed? Hello? What are we doing here? But this is what I mean. What Ubisoft has represented for so long is what I could only call the bare minimum. Actually, that might be offensive to the term minimum. The bare sort of enough is probably a better way of explaining it. Like, you see, Ubisoft, they don't really care about their customers, okay? They kind of haven't for like about a decade maybe. I mean, once they figured out that they could create multiple sequels of like Ezio games and still make millions of dollars, it eventually led to what was always going to happen for them, which is the corporatization of everything that you know and love turning into utter nonsense. I'm trying not to swear here because of YouTube, but you get my drift. You see, this blatant stupidity coming out of Ubisoft's face holes, I mean, it's nothing new for them. They always loved giving the bare minimum. Holy shit, that was a big sneeze. Oh my god, bless me. Okay, back to it, my bad. They always loved giving the bare minimum after a certain point. Remember how good Black Flag was? Didn't you want another one? Nope, too bad. Best we can do for you is Skull and Bones, the first quadruple A game. Oh wait, that failed too, and it took like 10 years to come to the conclusion of let's just make Black Flag but worse. Really? Come on, Ubisoft. But you see, the point of this lawsuit isn't any which way, but a good thing for all of us. You see, you may want Ubisoft to rise up and become good again. And yeah, that may happen one day, especially if they lose this, they're going to change their ways. But what you really want is for Ubisoft to lose this lawsuit big time. Because this isn't just for Ubisoft fans or for the love and care of like a single franchise. No, this is for the future of game ownership itself, and that is why this is so important. For a long time now, players have been noticing a very weird shift, right? You buy a game, you're going to download it, you install it, but you still don't own it. Instead, you are just paying for a license that can decide on a whim when it wants to be pulled away from you whenever the profitable side of the equation falls through. The stupid and worst part about this is that we all bought into it not knowing the actual ramifications. We didn't read the fine print. We figured when we buy something that we owned it like usual. Like imagine buying a new dog. Oh, you love that little thing. And then one day the breeder you bought it from or whatever says, sorry, you never owned that dog, and then tries to take it away from you. You would turn into Super Saiyan 2 Goku and start spirit bombing the surrounding area in anger, and I wouldn't question you one bit because that's crazy. You like that steak you just ate? Well, technically you never ate it. Sure, you paid for it, you swallowed it, but we're gonna need it back now. Can you just like go to the bathroom, put your fingers down your throat, and give us back our steak? What do you mean that's insane? But you just enjoyed the steak, didn't you? You just ate it. Like, so you had your fun with it, just give it back to us. You never owned it anyways. Yet in video games terms, that is normalized. Sure, you bought the game, you bought the microtransactions, and you spent hours in the game, but no. You see, you don't own anything. You were just renting after all. And you see, Ubisoft has kind of been one of the most aggressive adopters of this sort of philosophy. Whether it's having online requirements for a single-player game, which makes no sense, by the way, if there's no online functionality like co-op or anything like that, or a forced launcher, which Ubisoft has also done too. And even the entire game servers that can just turn off one day. You see, what Ubisoft really wanted, they wanted to turn gaming into temporary rental simulators, and that is stupid, but that's the truth. So it's really no wonder why the legal questions are starting to pile up. So the fact that Ubisoft is being challenged and raked over the coals by their own French countrymen of all people, it's glorious to see, I gotta admit. But you see, this is a battle that has a lot riding on the line here, because if we win, then the game companies have to comply. But if they win, well, we're never going to own anything ever again, and then some. This is why this lawsuit matters a lot, because the publishers likely insist the answer is, well, yes, you don't technically own anything. You bought a license to access our software, that's all it really is. But that's a bait and switch, isn't it? You can walk into a store butt naked right now, see a game, buy it, and assume that it's going to work tomorrow, or like next year even. That's how ownership has always worked in entertainment. When you buy a movie, it doesn't suddenly self-destruct. It's not like if you buy a book that suddenly the author is going to like break into your home in the middle of the night and steal it back when you're done with it. But with modern games, this has been quietly rewritten, and that messes up everything big time. But the uncomfortable truth here is that Ubisoft didn't stumble into the situation by accident. No, they spent years transforming all of their biggest franchises, from Assassin's Creed to Ghost Recon and more, into these live service ecosystems for a very, very specific reason. It was all designed to maximize the reoccurring revenue. I mean, even go look at Assassin's Creed. What began as a tightly crafted historical stealth game, I mean, that eventually grew into a sprawling open world, right? That was full of checklists, with these huge maps and the hundreds of icons. And as the games progressed, they started gaining those endless grinding loops. I'm looking at you, Valhalla especially. These games then weren't designed to really tell stories anymore. They were, as to a degree, sure, but they were really just being made to keep you in them for as long as humanly possible. And it was all done to ensure that you will hopefully open that item shop one day and buy a skin bundle that is worth like 1/3 the price of the entire game you just bought as well. Don't don't notice that, by the way, but it's true, which is still crazy to me. Because what do you mean that your fully priced video game has skins that are like Fortnite level prices? What are we doing here? This is why Ubisoft fell apart in the first place. They won't admit it, but it's true. Yet they're going to fight tooth and nail now to do what exactly? Keep this meta going, even though it clearly hasn't worked for them? It eroded all consumer trust they had and led to such a downfall that their entire company had to be bought out by Tencent. It is the definition of insanity, right? Which Ubisoft is starkly familiar with these days. Like, they sell XP boosters, for God's sakes. In a single player game. Why are we selling XP boosters in a game where you can't fight other people anyways? There's no FOMO. It's a single player game, for crying out loud. It's so demoralizing that Assassin's Creed went from being this focused storytelling epic to just becoming basically Fortnite wrapped in a historical setting and then preying on your FOMO all of the time. But that's what Ubisoft's game design is all about these days. It's not about modern AAA publishers wanting to sell you a game anymore. That's boring. Who wants that? It's all about keeping you inside this monetization funnel as long as humanly possible instead. Which is why when you look at Crimson Desert, right, that's such a breath of fresh air. Sure, it's huge, it's full of things to do. I already have so much left to do in that game, it's ridiculous. I'm like 115 hours into it, but it's not online. There is no cash shop or XP boosters or anything like that in it, right? Crimson Desert is like, what if we made it an Ubisoft game, but we removed the stupid ideology nonsense, kept the good parts, and actually respected your money? Wow, imagine that, it worked. But when you look at the corporate logic behind Ubisoft's business model, I mean, the reasoning is obvious. Their investors, they wanted the predictable revenue, right? The executives, they wanted reoccurring engagement to then fatten those spreadsheets. And the analytic teams, I mean, they want data that they can optimize too. So what ends up happening is that these games slowly morph into platforms like Fortnite, rather than being self-contained experiences like a Crimson Desert. And once a game becomes a platform, the publishers then want complete control over it, control over the servers and the updates, and control over whether the game even exists tomorrow too. And that's how we end up where we are right now, in a world where a fully priced game like The Crew can simply vanish into nothingness and the servers just disappear. It's not because the game is broken nor supported, it's just because Ubisoft doesn't want the game to exist anymore, so now it's gone. So if Ubisoft wins this lawsuit, then the industry as a whole is going to treat it as confirmation that the current system that they're doing, the whole platform live service you own nothing idea, is actually perfectly acceptable and needs to become the norm going forward even more. Which means that if they win, publishers will feel even more confident selling you games that rely entirely on temporary infrastructure pretty much to exist. Meaning that if Ubisoft wins this, more games are going to disappear overnight with zero power in your hands to stop any of it. But if Ubisoft loses, well, then everything changes. Suddenly, courts will have to acknowledge that consumers do have legitimate expectations when they purchase something. Go figure. That selling something as a game might actually carry responsibilities behind the fine print that is buried in that wall of text. You know, before you hit accept so that you can play your video game. Like, this means that publishers would also have to rethink how they design their online games or like the platforms, because if shutting down servers effectively destroys a paid product, which it does by the way, they will now have to legally be required to provide you with alternatives. Oh no, now we might have to make games for players and respect them. Oh, the horror. Imagine making us have to keep our word in 2026? Someone get us out of here. These consumers, they're so evil. This means if a game is also taken offline, they're going to have to give you an offline mode or a server transfer. You know, preservation options like they should be doing in the first place. Things that will allow you to play the product that you bought no matter what happens. I think it's kind of crazy that this is even like up for debate, but it shows how backwards everything currently is. It is also a potential industry reset too, because like imagine that ripple effect, dude. It'll be glorious. Other companies would then have to take notice. Obviously, Ubisoft isn't the only one building this around some sort of model. But with how much live service nonsense dominates modern AAA development these days, I mean, I see this as an absolute win. Because having entire business strategies revolve around controlling your access through these like centralized servers, and then revoking that whenever, it's crazy to me. It will never be something that I'm cool with. But if these courts side with Stop Killing Games and French consumer right groups, it will open Ubisoft up like a Thanksgiving turkey that's ready for the reaping. And it will also make the live service stupid stuff more risky to do too in the future, which could then force the industry as a whole to rebalance themselves and do away with disposable live service experiments and go back to, making games that can actually stand on their own and exist forever and actually be good and not made into slop. This means you would have complete experiences like a Crimson Desert right away more often, actual games that are playable years later that are preserved, accessible, the way that games used to be. Hilariously, in the end, there is an irony to all this, I have to admit, because it means that for years, right, like well over a decade even, that Ubisoft just tried to chase the metrics and the monetization funnels and the whole live service dream future because they believed, honestly, they believed that they could just get away with it. But this lawsuit is gonna just expose their hidden flaw in their own strategy. And like I said, ironically, because they wanted more control over their games and their customers, they have now bounced this all backwards and instead caused consumer backlash like to the level we've never seen before, as well as legal scrutiny. And like, it's just so nice to see, Now, of course, this doesn't mean that Ubisoft will lose. I mean, yeah, sure, corporate lawyers are very good at their jobs, right? I mean, they're lawyers, obviously. But even the existence of like such a lawsuit, that still sends a powerful message. That players are no longer willing to quietly accept the idea that what they buy can just be taken away forever. And publishers need to cater to our whims and not the other way around. So let's hope that the courts agree, because it won't just be Ubisoft, right? It'll be everybody who will then have to be nicer and more giving to you when it comes to future and even current games. Which means that a legal defeat against Ubisoft here could end up becoming one of the biggest victories for gamers in, well, all time really. Because sometimes the only thing that forces an industry to change is when someone finally drags them into court, and right now, that fight, it has officially begun. Hell yeah, dude, but like, what do you think? Let me know. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to. I'll see you guys in the next one, and I love to see it. I hope they lose, dude. I really do.